That's weird.
And I wish we were already on now that I'm saying this, but
well, we can start rolling.
Okay, I'll hold it. Then I was going to say about Mac. I mean, again, my preface is I'm a fan. I have his jersey. I want him to succeed. He's not playing well. He's not justifying his contract. He's not justifying 2 first-round picks. He's not had a meaningful sack or, dropped interception. He hasn't had a big play since 2018. And if you're not acknowledging that, you're just too biased. You're not seeing the same game that I'm seeing. Maybe he's being triple teamed. Maybe he's being chipped. Maybe he's being held. At the end of the day, we didn't trade for, you traded for statistics. You traded for sacks and impactful plays, and he's not making them. I want him to make them, but he's not.
All right, let's talk about it during the show.
Have at it.
Here we go. And a 3, and a 2, and a 1, 1, 1.
Put the children to bed. It's time for Dan and Aldo to bare their souls.
Oh, yeah!
I love the Chicago Bears more than I do masturbating, and that is a lot.
Woo-hoo. Then, with 3 seconds left, Bob Avellini throws a 30-something-yard touchdown pass to Greg Latta, and the Bears win, and I literally shit my pants. I swear to God, I literally did.
Eric Kramer, for me, I love the guy. He's a tragic figure. I mean, he embodies all that is.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God. Oh, yeah.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
They won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
So, Dan, tape is the ultimate tool for scouts and for coaches to evaluate players, to detect plays and so forth. And they spend hours looking at tape, right? Why do they so often get shit wrong?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Aldo.
Oh, yeah! It's Tuesday. Listen to that crowd, and it's all for you. Take a bow.
I don't know. I've made a couple people unhappy.
Don't tell me conservatives who were angry at your Trump comments.
They have been very unhappy with me, but as I said last week, I feel like I haven't extrapolated on it or delved into it. I didn't, I was trying to be respectful. I'm not calling anybody idiots that disagree with me, although that's kind of been what's happening to me lately, but okay, fuck it. Let me point out that the intro, last week we were talking about needing to switch up the intro,
right?
But it seems to be pretty spot on right now because he's talking about Khalil Mack.
Yep.
All right. You talking about you're going to be miserable for the game. Well, there was another one in there that just seemed. Oh, the running the ball. Oh, my God. So everything from the intro has come back. It is full force.
That's right.
From Sunday's game.
I'm glad that we didn't touch it. Oh, jeez. I'll tell you, how has been your week since that miserable loss on Sunday to the Indianapolis Colts?
I kind of blame myself. And I remember I broke up with my girlfriend just before Super Bowl 41. And I thought, God damn it, why couldn't I have waited till after the game? And maybe that was the reason we lost to the Colts. And when you know it, I break up with my girlfriend the day of the game, before the Colts game this Sunday, the Colts again, and we lose again. Now, to be fair to her, she's a good person, and it was more or less amicable. But I'm just saying, I probably have created some horrible juju or I should have done it after the game.
No more pussy for you, Dan.
I don't deserve it. Not after that.
No, not at all.
And neither does Matt Nagy.
Yeah, I know. You were texting me during the game. You were expressing your frustration with the Bears defense, which you're going to talk about in depth, and your frustration with Matt Nagy's play calling. So we're going to get into all of that. But I want to start right off with your weekly highlights package. Why don't you lead into that, and then I'll play it when you're ready for me to play it.
Well, I don't know if you listened.
I did not. I don't know
if you edited it or anything. Okay, well, it's about 10 minutes. It's a little longer because I wanted to encompass multiple viewpoints, not just my own. You'll see that there are numerous people are giving the defense a pass, and maybe rightfully so, and blaming it all on the offense. Some people are saying, well, Foles sucks, but no, he hasn't had enough time. So I tried to put something from everybody. And so we go to Hogan Johns, we've got The Score, we've got ESPN, and I tried to put everybody's viewpoint in and not just something that backed up my own.
You're always a fair-minded individual. That is one of the many things I love about you. So let's play this thing and see what you got.
All right.
Early on, I guess some of the peripheral drama about the game before we saw the inactives was, and a lot of people were pointing this out. Danny, I think you had tweeted something too about it. Why was Tyler Bray promoted to the active roster? He's been living on the practice squad. Why would they do that? So many people surmising something potential about, has Trubisky been traded? Has he been demoted to third string? Is he being put in as part of an offensive package to do something else on offense? And then the first two quarterbacks that I saw come out on the field before Mitchell Trubisky was even out there were Nick Foles and Tyler Bray. So I was like, And I'd been telling everybody that asked me on that too, it's not a big deal. I don't suspect anything here. I can't imagine that Bray has been moved up. But then I see Bray come out with Foles, and I'm like, And then I see those two starting to play catch and warm up together and go through drills together. And then finally, I saw Trubisky mosey out onto the field. So then I realized, okay, the real answer to the question of why was Tyler Bray there was, according to Matt Nagy, that this was a guy that he just feels comfortable with, that this is somebody who is, as Matt Nagy put it, another voice in his ear. It sounds like those two guys, Nick Foles and Tyler Bray, are pretty tight. That said, I was watching very closely on the first break, especially the first few offensive series. What is Mitchell Trubisky's role? How engaged is he going to be on the sideline? He was as engaged as anybody, probably more so than anybody. And it was more Trubisky in Nick Foles' ear than Tyler Bray. So Tyler Bray's the warm-up guy, I guess. I will say this, too, that this year the defense has not played up to its own expectations, Anthony. So there were alarming moments, especially with the run games against the Bears defense, that made you think, well, the Bears don't look quite as elite on defense.
I'm very concerned about the specific weaknesses of the Bears defense right now. A pass rush that, while measurably perhaps effective with some of the peripheral numbers, just doesn't get home enough to seem to threaten Tom Brady. And the middle of the defense, there's no rallying to the ball. There's no actively shedding blocks and, as they say, flying around. It looks like the middle of this defense is soft.
High hopes going into that Colts game. Really wanted to see the Bears kind of step up in class against their opponent and wanted to see them meet the level of their competition, and we didn't see that. We saw a playoff team on the field at Soldier Field, but it wasn't the Bears.
You came out of the third victory of the season feeling a sense of hope, and I don't know what you came out of the fourth game of the season with. Certainly, Lovey always talked about breaking down the season into quarters, and the first quarter, ultimately 3-1. Seeing the way they lost that game leaves you with questions on both sides of the field, but especially with their offense and with the quarterback change and with the new reality of the 2020 Chicago Bears.
I cracked shotgun versus under center throughout the game and run versus pass, and in the first and second quarter, things were actually pretty equal. 10 plays out of the shotgun in the first quarter, 7 plays under center. Second quarter, 5 out of shotgun, 6 under center. Relatively equal. They ended up running 18 passes, though, and only 10 runs. That's actually excusable, though, at halftime at least, because they couldn't run the ball at all, and there are plays built in there. Obviously, the quarterback can check out of runs into passes if the defense dictates. So, at halftime, nothing too alarming. But then you go to the third quarter, and I'm going to throw the fourth quarter out of there completely because it was just garbage time. There was shotgun, throw, shotgun, throw. But third quarter, 11 passes, 2 runs. 11 out of shotgun, 2 under center. All 11 passes out of shotgun, both runs under center. So, when you get to the first play of the fourth quarter, which was that 3rd and 1, big 3rd and 1, they go under center. Patterson in the backfield, David Montgomery not on the field.
We've all seen that one before.
But when you run 11 straight plays, and I think it actually goes into the second quarter, is even longer. I tweeted this out. But at least in the third quarter, 11 straight plays, you're in shotgun, you throw the ball. Oh, it's the last 4 runs. Your last 4 runs, going back to the end of the second quarter, all of them were under center. I mean, it's as obvious as it gets. So when you line up after that under center on 3rd and 1, what do you think the defense is thinking?
The Bears are in the situation they're in because of that reason. But no matter how much you want to be sarcastic and snarky and say, oh, yeah, you guys don't have your whipping boy to go after today, Mitch ain't good. He's not good. And we can live in that lane, and we can all be snarky about it. But the point is, you spent the 2nd overall pick on Mitch Trubisky in maybe the best quarterback draft ever. And that's why the Bears are where they are.
First thing I would say is your ears don't work. Because if you've listened to this show now for a better part of a year, we've led the charge that he's not the only problem. We've also been out there to tell you that he's not the answer.
Yes.
And I think that both can be true.
They are true.
I think I'm going to be asked to eat some crow on today's fine radio program for celebrating the arrival of Nick Foles. And like Larry David's like, oh, I'm always apologizing. Like, I'm always getting things wrong. I think it's the nature of the opinion business. And so just like I will spike the ball when I get things right, I will own it when I get things wrong. Here is how I feel after watching that game. Nick Foles was bad. Nick Foles was worse than I expected him to be. But Mitch Trubisky had 33 starts under Matt Nagy. Nick Foles has 1. I think it's reasonable to say, let's see what this offense can be in a bigger body of work with Nagy and Foles together going forward.
Yeah, it's reasonable, but you're kind of running out of time. Like the time for this regime to be fully experimenting with where things are offensively. You look at this season, especially with the start of 3-0, and you go, well, we're a playoff team. Like, we should be thinking about being a playoff team. And it scares me to now turn around and play a quick game too against a defense that loves to pressure the quarterback. Now, maybe that means that there are some plays that he can make that will make up for some of the deficiencies this offense has.
1911. Bears offense just not very good, not blessed with elite players, but maybe, just maybe, you look and go, maybe it wasn't all the quarterback. Not saying that Mitch is Tom Brady. All I'm saying is O-line wasn't very good. Other than Allen Robinson, who's a really impactful receiver you've got, couldn't run the ball. K-Mac can't hang on to a freaking easy interception. Roquan doesn't get his foot back down. Otherwise, you have 2 picks, you take away some points, and you get the ball in the red zone off the pick, and none of it happens.
Mac's got to make the interception, and yes, Eddie Jackson's missed tackles. He had a pass interference, but
a lot
19
of missed
points.
tackles.
Yeah, 19 points, Mark.
Had Mac made the interception, they would have gotten 3. They never would have got a touchdown. You know that. You know that, don't you?
No, you're right, but he's got to make that play.
Yeah.
And then we were wondering earlier, too, about Quinn. He played 44% of your snaps. Is he out of shape? What's going on with Quinn right now? You didn't pay him all that money to play him 44%.
The O-line is the issue. They're on roller skates all day yesterday. I don't know. I don't know what you do. That O-line is terrible. Nick's going to be fine, but you got to protect him. You know he's going to get hurt now, and then it's going to be Mitch, and it's going to be all over it. And I love social media, everybody going, well, Mitch would be more entertaining in a loss. I'm like, what? Is that where we are now?
See, listen, here's where coaching comes into play, okay? I know Matt's been waiting for a long time to run his offense. If you didn't already know that your personnel won't allow you to do what you want to do, it was on full display yesterday against a good Colts defense. So now what the coach needs to do, okay, you've got the quarterback you trust. You've got the offense, majority of the schemes. You're going to have to tailor it to some of the limitations you have at other positions.
Right.
You can't get out there and just cut it loose and go, this is my offense, this is what I came here to do, when your talent can't keep up with it.
And I just see a pattern just with Nagy, and I'm just not a fan of his offense and what he does. He needs to be a little bit more creative, because I'm looking at Cole Kmet, that tight end. I'm like, why is he not utilizing him? At least surprise people. Throw a couple of plays to him, because the kid can do it if you give him a chance. I mean, as far as Anthony Miller, I love Anthony Miller, but he's dropping the ball, and I agree with you. Maybe it's time to go another direction. Just let him sit a couple of games so he can get that fire back.
I had a bit of an awkward ending there because I was just cognizant of the fact that it was getting long, so I apologize for that. But I feel like that most of the storylines of things that we were going to discuss are there. What do you think?
I think you left out one very important point.
What's that?
And maybe none of these broadcasters brought it up. But the team that the Chicago Bears played against is a really good fucking team. That is a Super Bowl caliber team. And that could be the AFC representative in the Super Bowl. And I am not talking shit. That team has an offensive and defensive line, which is and will forever be, unless there's dramatic rule changes in the National Football League, that's the first place you start building a championship team, is at the offensive and defensive line. And that team has excellent offensive and defensive line play. The quarterback, he's not a great quarterback, but he's a wily old veteran. You ask why didn't the Bears sack him more often? He's an immobile quarterback. And the reason is because he's smart. He's wily. He gets rid of the ball quickly. He's only coming into the game. He was only sacked twice in 3 games. It's almost impossible to sack him unless you do some other really good things on first and second down. In fact, I got Chuck Pagano talking about that. Why haven't the Chicago Bears defense done more in terms of getting higher sack numbers and higher turnover numbers? This is what he said.
We've had some opportunities. Unfortunately, they've been called back because of whatever, and we've hurt ourselves with some penalties. And I don't blame the guys. They're playing hard, and it's just a byproduct of playing good, hard, physical football. Sometimes those calls go against you, and so we've missed a few for that reason. Some turnovers, some interceptions, a pick six. We haven't got home as much as we'd like. We've got to play really good on first, second down. We've got to stop the run, and if we can get them in third, and 7, 3rd and 8 plus, then we can go hunt the quarterback, so to speak. And cut the guys loose. When it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 1, that makes it hard because the ball's coming out, running all these mesh routes, all these crossing routes, and it's hard to pick those things up. And you try to mix in a zone here and there, and then the guy comes open, and the ball comes out, whatever. So it's a combination of playing good on early downs, starting fast, get them in a 3rd and long situation, and then tying the coverage into where we can get them to hold the ball just a tick longer, 1 more second longer, a half second longer, and then I think the pressure and the sacks and the hits will come.
That's a critical point. to what is happening with this defense. We're not giving the defense, we being them themselves, are not giving themselves an opportunity to rear back their ears and go get after the quarterback, because first down and second down, they're giving up yardage, and so it's third and short. And so what would normally be a passing situation where the quarterback has to hold on to the ball that second longer, he's able to get rid of it a lot faster. That's the NFL game today. There's a record number of points being scored in the NFL today. A record number after 4 weeks. And yet, despite that, the Chicago Bears still held that team to 19 points. 19 points. And that is better than how many? 25 other teams allowed more than 19 points to their opponent.
All right. So I have to jump in. I apologize ahead of time, so please don't think I'm being disrespectful.
No.
I mentioned this last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, or maybe every week. I feel like whenever anyone says that about the points, it's the equivalent of me if I came up and said to you, like in that Bears-Saints game in Week 7 last year when we were thoroughly dominated, but at the end of the day, Mitchell still had over 300 yards passing and statistically looked fairly good, even though the eye test said that he was horrible throughout the game. And I feel like that's exactly what a lot of people are doing. I'm not singling you out, sir, but I feel like if you say, oh, we only give up 19 points, that's masking everything that went wrong during the game. They got lucky to give up only 19 points. And how many times in the last 2-3 years has O'Donnell punted Coffin Corner and had them down, at the 5-yard line? Anytime we have the other team backed up, they're going to go 95 yards. The siesta is coming as soon as they have the other team backed up. With regards to what Chuck was saying, first off, that's your fucking job to be able to, we've got this happening and this is happening and that variable's happening. Your job is to fucking coach a scheme that goes against said variables happening. And furthermore, there are a lot of times that the Bears do have them in 3rd and long. And what happens? There's never any pressure. And secondly, they always give up a deep pass. Even if they don't get the first, let's say it's 3rd and 10 or 12. At the very least, they get 10 or 11 yards and it's 4th and 1 and we're lucky to hold on and make them punt. It's never 4th and 12 and, it's incomplete. Okay, or 3rd and 12 and it's incomplete. Never. There's no pressure whatsoever, and they never hold the team, regardless of the downs. And then maybe we get lucky and they have to kick a field goal. And by the way, earlier in the game, their kicker, whom I had never seen before, he was wearing the goggles, like Chris Sabo or Eric Dickerson. That guy missed a kick, and they called it good. I will go to my grave saying one of the kicks earlier in the game he missed. I was like, are they going to challenge that? Because that was clearly not good. He literally missed a field goal. I'm telling you, one of those kicks he missed.
Rodrigo Blankenship, who I talked to when I went down to the Senior Bowl, and I asked him, have you ever kicked in a cold weather environment? And he said never. So I totally anticipated he was going to blow a kick at Soldier Field, but unfortunately the weather was agreeable to him. But to the point that you just made, I'll let Akeem Hicks talk to it.
Patrick O'Donnell in a punt.
No, that's the wrong one.
We understand that there are going to be plays that we give up during the course of a game, but there's a desire, right? There's a ambition to be productive, to make those plays that our team needs. I think that when it comes to those situations, we're going to win our fair share, right, as a defense, and we got to sure up those other occasions when they're able to complete and get that first down. Make no mistake, the game of football, there's a reason why, that everybody, gives up a couple points. They're going to get a couple of first downs. And your job is to make sure that once you get into that red zone, you're fighting and you're not giving up. And you're not saying, okay, they marched down 40, 50 yards. Let's just give them a touchdown and get off the field. Our mindset is to punish our opponent until the very last second. So that's what we do.
Question for you, Dan. How many touchdowns did the Bears defense allow against the Colts?
Oh, let me just say this. I love Akeem Hicks. And I see what your point is. I know they held him to field goals. I concede that. And I'm not saying the Bears defense sucks. All I'm saying, my premise is we have to stop pounding our chest and saying that we have the best defense or even a top 5 defense. They're not. They're fucking not. And we got lucky that they didn't score more points, and that's happened like that.
But you could make that case about every team and every series of play. It was lucky that an offsides wasn't called there, or a holding penalty, or that guy dropped the pass, or that pass was errant. You can use that throughout every play for every single NFL game.
I just don't think they're playing well. I don't. I don't think Mac's playing well. I don't think Quinn's playing well. I can never remember the guy's name that's wearing Singletary's number. I don't know what the fuck. Trevathan's not playing well. Roquan's not playing too well. Kyle Fuller, I thought everyone's picked on for having a bad game. I thought one of the PIs against him was completely ridiculous this week. So maybe he had the one penalty and he did give up the touchdown. And the rookie didn't look so good on the other side this week. But again, I'll give him a pass. He's done well thus far, and he's still a rookie. I think the secondary has played fairly well. I think Eddie Jackson is still getting a lot of love for 2018 and is giving up a lot of plays. But all in all, I'm not saying, okay, I think if you told me they're a top 15 defense, I'll say, okay, I agree. I do not think they're a top 5 or even a top 10 right now the way they're playing. In
terms of points allowed per game, they're number 7. They're allowing 20 points a game. Indianapolis, the very team that they played this week, is number 1, allowing 14 points. Kansas City, 17.5.
Okay, but what if, in one of those situations where O'Donnell pins them deep, and it's first and 10 for the other team from the 5, if you can get even a 3 and out there, or just hold them to maybe 1 first down, then you're talking great field position for your offense, and that never happens. Never. I don't know if it's for a lack of aggressiveness or a complacency, but I think that permeates on both sides of the ball. It just feels like the Bears are always flat.
The very same example that you just said that you want to see happen, this is what happened to the only touchdown the Chicago Bears defense allowed against the Indianapolis Colts was because of this upcoming play that I'm going to play for you, courtesy of the radio station. I think it's WBBM that broadcast the radio broadcast the Bears game. And then it's the special teams coach talking about it afterwards.
Patrick O'Donnell in a punt to Nyheim Hines. He's at his 18-yard line to our left. A very dangerous, multi-talented running back / receiver, and the kick is going to be blocked. They got in there real quick. And everybody leaves it alone near the 47-yard line of Indianapolis. The punt block for the Colts after the big stop on 3rd down. And there was nobody in this man's vicinity. He comes in and takes it right off the foot of Patrick O'Donnell.
Self-inflicted negative, things that you talk about in the room, that you can't do stuff to yourself and expect to play well. And we had some mental errors there that can't happen. So I got to do a better job of getting that corrected. And I'm glad we're playing on Thursday to try to get that taste out of our mouth.
DeAndre Houston Carson and Joel Iyebunyue went out to cover the punt without blocking anybody. They just totally disregarded their assignment. Yeah. And they then allowed the Colts to have the ball at the 47-yard line, and they then score their only touchdown in the game. The special teams gave the Colts offense half the field to work with. And
I agree with your point on this.
And yet you're bitching about this defense when they probably would not have allowed an entire touchdown in the entire game if it wasn't for that miscue.
I disagree with that. I agree with your main point.
But the proof is there. They didn't allow a touchdown the rest of the 3 quarters.
But we lead the league in giving up 95-yard drives, too, the last couple of years.
Please, can't go there. You can't go there. We're talking about reality. The reality of the situation is that the Bears didn't allow a single touchdown after that because they weren't placed in a terrible position by special teams or a turnover by the offense.
Well, let me say that our special teams have sucked since Dave Tobe left, and we could go back a decade on that. But I agree with your point there. It's the fundamental point of the O'Donnell play did set up that touchdown. I concede that. But what I'm saying to you is that had that play not happened, and it's still I still think they would have given up at least a touchdown on a 90-plus yard drive. I really think that's my opinion. That's not a fact, but I do believe that they were going to give up a touchdown, whether it be 49 yards or 99 yards. It was inevitable. But like you said, they only give up 19 points. Jesus. Pat on the back.
What are you, a soothsayer? Are you a soothsayer? It was inevitable they were going to give up a touchdown. Come on. You can't say that.
But they always give up long drives. They do.
They didn't do it. They didn't do it against the Colts.
Statistically, they're leading the league in giving up long drives of 90 yards or more the last 3 years. We talked about that several weeks ago.
Yeah, well, we talked about that 2 weeks ago, but who cares about what happened in 2018, 2019? That's what that stat was.
It happens over and over and over with this defense.
It's happened once this season, and it's happened 2 or 3 times in 2018 and in 2019, a total of 3 or 4 times. So you cannot condemn a defense because of that stat. Now let me tell you this.
Let me throw it at you real quick.
Okay.
You tell me who's playing really well in that defense.
Before I answer that question, let me tell you what I think the biggest the problem with the defense is, and I'll let Matt Nagy talk about it.
Of the 4 games that we played, the only game that I didn't feel our pass rush was week 1. That was the only game. And so I do know that even though the numbers might not be there with the sack totals, there's a lot of times where you're affecting the quarterback. And I feel like in that world, we're doing pretty good. Now, the other part of this too, when we're talking about the defensive side, is you start talking about field position and getting turnovers. I feel like we're getting some, but I'd love to get a few more. And when you have opportunities to get turnovers, we almost had 2, but almost doesn't count, last week. And what that does is it keeps them from getting points on Roquan's, and it totally flips the field on offense for us on Khalil's. The turnovers to me are more important than anything, that turnover margin.
My dear friend Dan Aguirre, that is the biggest problem with this defense. They are not turning over the ball more. They should be doing it much more. Their turnover differential right now is a minus 0.2. So they have got to improve that. That Khalil Mack dropping that interception, the over and over again. I can cite a half dozen examples of turnovers that should have been there, but were either called back by a penalty or a player miscue. That's the biggest problem with this defense. It's not allowing 95-yard drives once a season. That's bullshit.
No, that's more than once a season. But to be fair, to show you that I like to think I'm fair, with the audio that I selected there, I agree with Mark Giangreco in the sense that if Khalil makes that interception, the offense probably still doesn't score a touchdown. So I will come after the offense too. Again, my attack on the defense theoretically is because everyone pretends that it's the 85 Bears here or the 86 Giants or something, and we're not. And the vision test tells me that they're not. And again, I'm just a guy on the microphone. I'm not Chuck Pagano. I'm not trying to say I can do a better job, but they need to do a better job if the Bears are going to make the playoffs this year. And the offense obviously needs to too, but I just don't think that the defense, I think right now we're paper champions. Right now it's all reputation versus, like I told you before we went on air, and I have to say this again because someone's going to criticize me, and that's fine. I'm a big guy. I can take it. But I have a Khalil Mack jersey. I root for him. I was happy the day of the trade. I was listening to Bears Barroom when you all did the special, and I was like, this is fucking great, blah, blah, blah. I was so happy about the trade. I would have traded the 2 first-round picks too. All on board. However, Mr. Mack has not done anything since 2018. Nothing. We brought him here not to make pressures, not to talk about the times he's been held, not to talk about all what ifs, and he's been triple teamed. We brought him here to make sacks on third down, meaningful. And I'm not criticizing over the drop pick. He's got to make it. He knows that. But I just meant in general, the third downs, the pressure, there's never any big sacks. Impactful plays. You gave up 2 first-round picks because this guy was sold to us like he was going to be Lawrence Taylor again when he was NFL MVP in 1986. And when we got that first game in Green Bay, we thought, we got that guy. This is who we traded for. He's scoring, he's running, he's all over the field. He hasn't done that in 2 years. Maybe it is his knee. Maybe he is hurt. But I think that is a microcosm of the defense. No one's afraid of this defense right now. Nobody. And should they be? No. The defense has given up an exorbitant amount of yards. There's no way you can say that isn't true.
What defense strikes fear in you or should strike fear in any NFL team?
Well,
name me a defense.
The 2018 Bears, for example.
No. I'm saying today.
All right. Well, I'm guilty of generally watching the Bear game and the Bear game only.
I think that's a big issue there, Dan, is that you are basing your opinion through Bears goggles, let's put it. When I look at what this Bears team is through the perspective of the entire NFL and what I see and what the numbers tell me, so I use the eyeball test and I use statistics to tell me that this team is not nearly as bad as you point them out to be. You're judging this team based on your expectations as opposed to the reality of what is happening in the NFL. I said 20 minutes ago that there are record amount of points being scored in the NFL, and yet it's the Chicago Bears who are among the league leaders in points allowed. Yet it is the Chicago Bears who are ranked number 3 overall in the NFL in third down conversions, their defense versus offenses. Indianapolis, the best defense that I've seen this year, is number 1 at 31%. Number 2, the Vikings, 31.9%. And then number 3, the Chicago Bears at 34%. The Tampa Bay Bucs, who we are playing this Thursday, they're number 10 at 40%, 6% worse on third down conversions. They're 6% worse. And the Giants, for more perspective, 53% of the time they are allowing their opponents to convert to a first down when it's a third down against them. So you've got to look at this from the perspective of the entire NFL. There are so many Chicago Bears fans who look at things based only on what they see on Sunday for those 3.5 hours, the Bears game. You're not looking at it through the lens of what is happening throughout the entire NFL. Compare us against most defenses. Every fucking coach out there would say it's a favorable matchup for the Chicago Bears with the exception of a half dozen teams. That's where we rank. We're a top 10, top 7, top 6 defense in the eyes of most people.
Let me just say that, and your statistics I like them. I mean, like I said, everyone says stats are for losers or whatever. I disagree with that, and I listen to what you're selling me, and I'll buy that. And concede, again, part of the argument to say, hey, you have an argument there. But let me just say that I'm not judging them based upon my expectations. I'm judging them based upon the hype that they received, not only from us or Bears fans, but from during the broadcast. Like Rich Gannon he's just saying, oh, this is a great defense. This is a great This is not a great defense. A great defense, if you want to go back just to the Eagles playoff game, gets a stop when we fucking need it. The Bears defense never gets a stop when they need it. And as much as I like Khalil Mack, he was invisible in the Eagle playoff game. He's been invisible in 2019, and he's done nothing yet in 2020. And again, I give the guy immense credit because he's obviously, according to the report every Friday, he's questionable and he still plays. And that's incredible that a lot of people necessarily wouldn't do that. But he's not nobody on the defense is really showing up, making impactful stops or plays or highlight plays or the big stop when you need it. That's my point. Again, maybe the whole NFL, as you point it, as you illustrate, the whole National Football League is having the same problem. But every team isn't beating their fucking cock about how great their defense is every week. It's maddening. It's nauseating. I mean, there's still people. Patrick Manley, I should have put it on there. I couldn't listen anymore. I turned it off. Turn it on the bar room. Honestly, I should have had just on the bar room anyway, but I was listening to the score just to hear what's going to be said. And he said that the Bears, it's okay. They probably still have the best defense in the league. Oh my God. Like, it literally I wanted to throw my head through a fucking window. That's all I'm saying to you is that it's not my expectations. It's hearing everybody talk about how great they are. And another question I have to you or to anybody that hopefully is listening, maybe not right now since we're recording, but and it's easy to say this because, he's coaching the other league. I know it doesn't matter, but did we really, maybe we lost a lot more when Vic left than I thought. I mean, am I wrong in that regard? Is Chuck underperforming as the coordinator?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I think so too. There were several situations late in the game where he was bringing pressure, and he usually doesn't. Now, they didn't get home, but I kept thinking to myself, at least he's trying. At least he is blitzing. They were blitzing a lot more in that second half than they were earlier in the game or earlier in any of the other three games. At least I didn't write it down, but from my analysis of watching it, that's the way it felt as just a fan.
In my mind, the situation was perfect for more blitzing. You had a team, but the Indianapolis Colts, whose wide receivers have been underperforming. T.Y. Hilton has not had the type of season that so far that he's had in the past. I'm not sure what's going on with the other guy, and the tight end play has been so. Jack Doyle got away with a push off on Roquan Smith on third down.
And fuck you, Trey Burton.
And fuck you, Trey Burton, another guy who is just awful. So this, because their offensive line is so good, we should have seen some more blitzes, and that probably would have helped. Chuck Pagano every week in his press conferences says, I can do a better job of putting people in the right places, and I totally agree with him. But at the same time, there are some execution errors going on, and we really, really miss Eddie Goldman. Shane Marsaw, who used to work here at the bar room, used to always say he is the most underappreciated, talked about player on the Chicago Bears and maybe the most necessary player on this team, and he's proving that to be correct. Even though Bilal Nichols had a pretty decent game, but nonetheless, Eddie Goldman helps these outside pass rushers in a huge way.
Are you still opposed to Snacks?
I am, because I don't think that he really is going to add much. I saw him play 3-4 games with the Lions last year. He was totally underwhelming. He wasn't the same Snacks as in previous years. I think he's out of shape. I think part of the reason that he hasn't been able to come to an agreement with any team is because he wants more money. He wants a 2-year contract, and he's not worth a 2-year contract. I don't really think that he can.
Hub says, in his opinion, if the Bears really think they're a playoff team, and especially if you're not going to sign Allen Robinson, which we can all agree we want to be done.
Yes.
But he says if they're not going to sign Allen Robinson, you got to bring Snacks in at least for the rest of the year. But maybe he won't accept a 1-year deal, like you said. It feels like Nichols, maybe he's not suited for that position.
Well, that's not his natural position. That is true.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that is so true. So hopefully John Jenkins will be back soon, and that will help tremendously, because it seemed like in that game where he got injured, he was starting to play a little better, and so we desperately need at least Jenkins back.
Or that 6'7" guy from Pitt that they got. Or not University of Pitt, but Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh Steelers. McKellers. This guy, I did a little research on him. They actually had him play on their 3-4 defense at the nose tackle position because they loved the way, because of his incredible size. He's 350 pounds, 6'7". They love the way that he breaks down that middle of the line and forces the quarterback to roll to his right or roll to his left, which, if he were able to do that with the Chicago Bears, that's where Khalil Mack would be. That's where Robert Quinn would be. And so he would be feeding those guys sacks. But there was a reason why he was on the practice squad for the Steelers, because he just could not play at that level consistently. And so they were upset with him, and which is why he's out there. So who knows if the Bears coaching staff can get something out of him. But I will say this, just to digress a little bit, my biggest problem, and I mentioned this on Bear Football, our after-game show, is that this game against the Colts exposed is that the Colts have a much better general manager than the Bears do. he has built a team that is much more prepared for Super Bowl contention than Ryan Pace has, and Ryan Pace should have had a Super Bowl team ready 3 years ago. To spend all those resources on Khalil Mack, to me, I have to say that I agree with you that it's not the best use of resources. If I am building a team for pass rushing, I want the pass rush to come up the middle via an Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald, to me, is the most valuable player in football because that's where the pass rush has to come in today's NFL because the ball is coming out so quickly. The quickest line to the quarterback is that straight line. So you need somebody to beat the center or to beat those two guards and get to the quarterback right away. By the time,
on behalf of Phil Emery, he would say, but Aldo, I was trying to draft that guy. I really was. He was going to be a Bear.
I don't know about you, but I almost cried that night. When Aaron Donald was selected right before the Bears were to pick, and the Bears had to pick Kyle Fuller, which hasn't been a terrible draft pick by any means, but I just had it in my guts. Just like I had in my guts that Patrick Mahomes was going to be a great player. I had it in my veins that Aaron Donald was going to be a tremendous football player. Just that quickness from that defensive tackle position, I'd never seen it before. Did I have any doubts that perhaps his size, he might get overwhelmed by offensive linemen? Yeah, it creeped in, but man, that quickness, it almost always wins, and the guy is strong. I don't care how tall he is strong and quick.
Dan and Aldo will be right back.
All right, let's see what this next one is. Let's see here.
You guys are losing it. At least I could keep my cool here. You guys have absolutely lost it.
All right, this is from somebody in Antioch. Somebody by...
Remember the Blackhawk goalie? They had Auntie Rama. On days that he was terrible, we said that they got rid of Auntie, and so they brought in Uncle.
Okay. That's not as funny as this.
I'm just trying to get you guys to stop losing it and regain your equilibrium.
I don't think I'm going to be able to. All right, this is from somebody in Antioch named Peter Fitzenwell.
Oh my gosh.
You've just crossed over into the Grobstein and Schuster zone.
Only available on the Barroom Network.
We now return to Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls.
But your love for Donald, and that I also share, I will say in 2018, just pointing out again, I think Donald was Defensive Player of the Year. But all year long, it seemed to be neck and neck between he and Khalil Mack.
That's correct.
And Khalil Mack, I don't know where that Khalil Mack went. He's not in contention the last year plus of anywhere close to being Defensive Player of the Year.
Part of it is that it's easier to scheme against those outside rushers than it is in an Aaron Donald. What can you do against a defensive tackle? You triple team him with the guards and the center, or you double team him with the center and running back. But with an outside pass rusher who's got to take more steps to get to the quarterback, there's so many different things that you can do. And unfortunately, I have seen Mack lose one-on-one battles this year more than I have that I can recall since he's been with the Bears. So, yeah.
So what do we think it is? Is it his knee? Is it because he's older? Is he not going to ever regain the form that he had 2 years ago? And if so, and I'm not trying to speak rhetorically or go on a speech or in my soapbox, if this is Khalil Mack moving forward, if it's never going to get any better, let's say he finishes the year with 5 or less sacks, is he a salary cap casualty?
Well,
considering the cap gets reduced, or maybe a release or a trade?
No, I think, You've got to figure out a way to make it work. And the way you make it work is by continuing to solidify the defensive line with more talent so that he faces fewer one-on-ones. Because he's going to win, half of those one-on-one battles or more. He's not in his prime anymore. It's clear that he's not in his prime. But
that's terrible because he's what, 28?
He's 28 or 29, I believe.
He should still be solid. He looks like he's in shape.
He does.
He looks like he's caught. He's he could be a wrestler.
And
he's in great. He appears to be in great shape.
And I'm not saying he's playing poorly, but I agree with you, Dan, that he's not playing at that super elite status.
If this was the guy we were trading for, we wouldn't have made the trade. You know what I mean? Like, we traded the 2 first-round picks for the guy that was in Green Bay in week 1 2 years ago. That's the guy we traded those picks for. If you would have said, if his 2019 was his 2017 with the Raiders, there's no way the Bears make that pick or that trade.
Well, and what's more troubling, because of the salary cap issue and the result of the COVID, that's going to reduce the salary cap. That makes it even worse. You just can't go to Khalil Mack and say, "Hey, because the salary cap is being reduced here by 10 to 20%, do you mind taking a pay cut?" You can't do that, and so he and 3 or 4 other defensive players are going to gobble up about 28% of the salary cap for 2021, and that is a lot of money, and particularly when you don't necessarily have a quarterback signed for next season.
And when you look at, again, I don't want to go too far into the offense yet, but let's just assume a worst case scenario, and God forbid, as they say, that the Bears start 3-0 and don't make the playoffs. Worst case scenario, we hope. And then you're talking about you let Kwiatkowski go to sign an aging Danny Trevathan, and you brought in Robert Quinn at this point, who hasn't really done much, but hopefully he will. But let's just assume he doesn't. And then we could all point out the failed draft picks or the Mike Glennon signings. I mean, if we don't make the playoffs, I still think Pace and Nagy have to go. I really do. Like, if you're going to draft a quarterback in 2021 in the first round, you don't want this fuck. I mean, he signed Mike Glennon. He drafted Trubisky. We know the history. And then the Foles move, but maybe Foles plays better because he's shown that he's capable of being the MVP of a Super Bowl. But I'm just saying, if this team goes from 3-0 and then doesn't make the playoffs, I think there's a case to be made that they both go.
It's hard to make that case unless you know that there are 2 or 3 candidates to replace them that you know are going to be better. If you know that a Chris Ballard is willing to leave Indianapolis and take over the general manager job for the Chicago Bears, then yeah.
Why would he though? He tried to get the job once before.
I hear you. I hear you. Or somebody of that ilk, of somebody that you just know this guy's got a track record. This guy can come in and get the job done. I don't think that let me check to see how much money he's got left on his contract, how many years he's got left on his contract. Because he just signed an extension last year, didn't he?
Who's that? Who's he?
Ryan Pace, I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe he got an extension after the 18th season when he was executive of the year. Man, but if we turn it to Nagy, if that's the appropriate segue, I'm not trying to steer the ship here. And that's why I put the Hogan John stuff in there. I thought where Hogue was charting all the shotgun throws, and it was like 11 straight plays in shotgun. They were all passes, and every time they would come out of the shotgun, it was immediately a run. Oh, my God. I mean, this is our coach.
Yeah,
this is our coach that's so incredibly predictable. And I want to go back to what I put in the audio, and I wanted to point this out. Again, the guy's overcome cancer. Sylvie Strong. I'm a fan.
Me too.
But, man, he's bullshitting. And that either he's, in the audio I put on there, that segment, either he is woefully unaware of what he's saying or he's lying.
I made a note of it too. When he said the best quarterback draft ever.
Well, no, not that.
Oh, really? What did he say then?
He was talking about how because our friend Greg Braggs is called in probably 28 times. I'm pulling that figure out of my ass. And argued with them every time and the reason Braggs would get on and be like, hey guys, it's not all about Mitch. It's not just Mitch. Right. It's not just Mitch, because Sylvie was basically saying, no, it's just Mitch. And so apparently there were people such as myself that were telling him, well, now you don't have your fucking whipping boy this week. Now who's your scapegoat? Now it's your coach. Now it's your scheme. Now you're saying it's the offensive lineman. Now it's Anthony Miller dropping passes. And he didn't like having that point back at him, but he did. He always was beating Trubisky up. And the people have come to him and pointed it out. And he tried to say that, oh, no, we've always said that it was he's bullshitting. Again, he never said that I'm aware of, oh, it's everybody else's fault too. He really, really went after Trubisky all the time. So, yeah, that's why I put that in there. And Braggs, if he were here, would say that's the point of all of his calls, was because they were so biased against Trubisky. And I love Tom Waddle, but and he's so good. And I'm not even putting Waddle in there so much as I am just Mark Silverman. Yeah, so it's so funny that people were coming after him for all of his, anti-Mitch stuff, because he did have all that's true.
It is
way true. So I don't know. You steer the broadcaster. I don't know which way you want to go with.
Well, I just want to say that the Pace's contract extension takes him through the end of 2021, and so I think that the Bears management, almost regardless of what happens this season, will keep Pace and Nagy around through the end of next season, unless they lose the rest of the games on the schedule, which isn't going to happen. I think that those guys.
I hope not. Oh my God!
I don't think so.
If they go from 3-0 to something like 5-11, that's going to be just the worst year possible.
All right, I want to talk about the offense now, but before I do, I got a personal question to ask, and if you're too embarrassed to answer this question, please tell me, no comment. You ever shave your balls?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time? And I'm not going to ask you what you use, but do you?
No, I'll tell you. I thought we mentioned this last week with the Manscaped thing. Yeah, I use the Schick. I forget what the name of the Schick razor is.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Well, I got to tell you, I got my hands on the Manscaped 3.0, the lawnmower. Holy cow. Guess what you're getting for Christmas?
It doesn't pull the hair or anything?
Nothing. It is the smoothest thing I've ever experienced down on my balls.
All my male friends that groom their shit too, that I'm close enough to have like a ball shaving conversation with, they would use clippers like you're going to shave your head.
Yeah, no.
And I always felt that hurt like that. Ooh, fuck. I don't want it. Even kind of burned my balls.
I've drawn blood by doing that. So
yeah, I don't fucking use those. So the Manscaped lawnmower thing's a better gimmick then.
Yes, it is truly a better gimmick. And two things that I noticed, that I've only used it once so far. Two things that I really loved about it. It's got a little light because, I take my glasses off, of course, when I'm taking a shower, so my eye vision isn't 20/20 when I'm in the shower, and so with that light, I can see much better what I'm doing down there, and it's also waterproof. So those are two great things about this Manscaped lawnmower trimmer, that if you guys shave your balls, which you should do, I mean, you have to. Yeah. I mean, come on.
I'm single again. Come on.
That's right. By the way, I'm getting you one for Christmas, so don't go buying one.
No, I won't. Like I said, I was happy with my razor doing it. Although the idea of doing it in the shower sounds pretty good to me, because I always stand out, and do my shit while I'm brushing my teeth and out at the sink.
Mm-hmm. No, I like to do it in the shower. That way, all the hair goes down and the drain it. And so, use the barroom discount code. It's called the code is barroom20. Barroom20, and you get 20% off. So that's what I'm using to buy your Christmas gift, and a couple of other guys here at the Barroom. They're going to get that. It is the Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com and take a look at all the products. If you're already using the products, you can use that 20% discount code to get refills on whatever you need. And I'm telling you, it's definitely worth the money. This thing is just a well-made product. And by the way, I didn't know this. They were on Shark Tank, and that's where they got the original funding to get the company going. So Mark Cuban, I think, is an investor in this thing, or somebody over at Shark Tank is. So they're doing good work over there at Manscaped, and we appreciate them supporting our show. All right, let's.
Someone's going to say Mark Cuban. He's a liberal. He hates Donald Trump, and you all, of course, you evil left-wing fucks.
Well, I think anybody that would say that would probably also. I think some of the people who would say that would also appreciate the fact that Mark Cuban is pretty much a self-made millionaire. Didn't need any of Daddy's money to build his empire, and for a lot of the same reasons they like Donald Trump, they might also like Mark Cuban once they get to know him better. But that's politics.
You know what we need as a sponsor in addition to the Manscaped? We need to get Blue Chew on board, so then we can say that the bar room will help you get your dick hard and get it shaven, and you'll be ready to fuck. You listen to the Bears Bar Room, you'll be ready to fuck.
Add in there a sponsorship from like Pornhub or something. I think you hit the trifecta. All right, let's talk a little bit about this offense. Throughout the game, as I mentioned earlier, you're texting me and you're saying, this is on Matt Nagy. He's the fucking worst coach. Expound on that for our listeners, please.
Well, it's just like what Hogan Johns were. Now, I wasn't making notes during the game or anything like that, but when you can sit there and see what play's coming based upon the formation, then that's on you. And all you've been saying essentially is scapegoating number 10 by, through your people. You haven't come out and directly said it, but the narrative has been that your offense has been handcuffed because you've had this inept quarterback in there. And, if I could just get my boy, and you got your boy, we gave up a 4th-round pick for him. We've given him all this money. And, oh, my God, he got all the credit in the world, and rightfully so, when they brought us back from the Falcons. And now you had a week, you put him in there, and that's the shit you come up with. And whether it's 3rd down and 1 and you're handing the ball to fucking Patterson, and everyone can point out that David Montgomery needs more carries. I mean, where do we can just keep going. Like all the things he did wrong. It just seemed he went straight back into we're going to be in the shotgun every play. We're going to fucking kill our running game because of it. And then when you put in that Foles struggled and the receiver struggled and the line struggled, even Kyle Long got in on the satiricalness of criticizing him he was tweeting out something about, someone commented about Nagy facetiously being an offensive guru or genius and saying that we need to run the ball. And Kyle Long tweeted out like something with Bill Murray, like, it's Groundhog Day again.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, because, again, it's the same shit. We're 3 years in, and this is who the guy is.
Mm-hmm.
You can give him a month to prepare. And his offense, he's going to come up with some gimmick fucking short side and jet sweeps the gain 1 yard, and that's going to be he spends a week to try to surprise you with his little end around or something, and then the rest of the fucking offense seems to be. And furthermore, I'm skipping around. What happened to the creativity that we saw 2 years ago with 2-point conversions? Remember all the fun we'd have whether a defensive player would come in as Santa's sleigh, and the Akeem Hicks running the ball, freezer left. It seems like we can never get a 2-point conversion now.
Here's the problem. It's all about execution. I mean, you just said, these fucking gimmick plays and so forth. Oh, and by the way, what happened to all those fucking gimmick plays from 2 years ago?
Well, no, I was just no. You're right. You're right. But what I was saying is he had all those gimmicks on like 2-point conversions,
and they worked because of execution. That is the biggest problem. It's the biggest problem in almost any aspect in life. You can have a CEO for a company. He's got a great vision for the company. He's got a great plan for the company, and then all of a sudden it just falls on its face because the execution of the service or the product they're developing fucking sucks. And that's what's happening with the Chicago Bears team right now. For example, on the Hogan Johns podcast, you mentioned that 3rd down and 1 play. I took a look at that. We have a Patreon page. If for $5 a month, you get all these little extra audio of Dan and I fucking around and little videos. I posted on our Patreon page. I posted the video of that 3rd down in 1 play because I studied it. I looked at it 40 times. What happens on that play? What happens is that the 6'4", 350-pound nose tackle, Grover Stewart, right off the snap, he fucking pushes Cody Whitehair 5 yards back into the back, not 5 yards, 3 yards back into the backfield. And that stopped Cordero Patterson from being able to plant his foot, and he didn't even have a hole to come to. In addition, the left tackle, James Daniels, was pushed back 2 yards. And so there was just no room to run. Now, I do blame Matt Nagy because perhaps if David Montgomery would have had that play, perhaps he would have had the vision and he's got the experience of maybe bouncing it outside and picking up the first down on the outside because there was plenty of running room going there. And Cordero Patterson, it does not have that running back experience. In addition to that, he runs so upright, does Cordero Patterson. And I know Eric Dickerson ran upright, but that's different. You're talking about an experienced running back who got away with running upright because he was just made for the running back position.
Cordero, he's the exception to the rule.
Absolutely, absolutely. Cordero Patterson, you should not be giving him the ball on 3rd down and 1. He doesn't get his pads down low. He's not experienced at picking up those tough yards. David Montgomery is. So that was a problem with execution and a coach's decision. But primarily my point here is that execution seems to be a huge problem on both sides of the ball. And in the last 2 weeks, the disturbing trend is that the offensive line, which played well in the first 2 games, seems to be regressing. So coaches, defensive coordinators have some tape to look at to see what Juan Castillo has been working out with this offensive line. And I'm concerned about this Thursday's game because the Tampa Bay Bucs have a very, very good defensive line. And if they overpower the Bears' offensive line, like I've seen the last 2 weeks, it could be a blowout on Thursday night.
And not to mention the transition that happened in the 3rd game when they brought Foles in. Now, maybe you could make an argument and say it's because we were trailing, but that's when the excessive amount of shotgun formation started to manifest again. And, of course, that bled over into a ridiculous amount on Sunday.
Yep.
And a predictable amount, like when you know which formation is going to be a pass and which is going to be a run. That's why I say he has to be, like, you can blame Trubisky all you want, then you get your boy and you're still doing the same shit. That if Mitch were in there, if Mitch would have thrown that interception, they'd have been like, oh man, another bad throw from Trubisky. It's all his fault. If we just had Nick Foles in there, and then they put Foles in the same shit. I mean, maybe it's the scheme. Maybe it's his inability to fucking not jack off about Andy Reid in Kansas City and dreaming to be like Big Red and wanting to be a Chief so bad, but he fucking is delusional because the offense, the people that we have aren't the same people that they have.
That's true.
And your job as a coach is to mitigate your weaknesses and accentuate your positives. So having said that, he always fails to do that. It seems like it's so, I joked with Aaron and Tooch and Joey Two Scoops during the game. I was serious, but I mean, it's not really serious, but I was mad when I said, I was like, this fucking guy shouldn't be coaching a high school team. He should not be the head coach. And I was saying because they come out flat. There's never any energy at all. And I know that the crowd isn't there, but that was part of the problem in 2019. Hell, there were a lot of slow starts in 2018. So it just feels like the team is never fucking prepared with this guy. And his game plan's the same shit every week. I can't be the only person who's just frustrated beyond words with Matt Nagy.
I think you're making some great points. While I still like the guy and I'm hoping that he will turn out to be the coach that I've always hoped the Bears would have during my lifetime, but there definitely are some issues. Now, you brought up the fact that there are no fans, and Nagy talked about that at what is today? Tuesday's press conference. He talked about, he was asked, why is the team coming out flat? And this was his response. I better put the audio up.
And the energy that everyone brings to start the game. There's a lot of music. There's a lot of people in the stands. It's just human nature to get excited when everyone's there. And so what happens is, to start a game, there's just not that. And so you have to create your own edge. We talk about that. You have to create your own excitement. You have to create your own energy, everybody. And the teams that do that on the front end, I think, are the teams that you feel the most. They get those fast starts. And so whatever that is, we need to do that. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about that here, and we've been talking about it, but that's very important.
Dan, doesn't it strike you that that's the coach's job? To make sure the team comes out of the tunnel fired up and ready to play. You don't fucking need fans and music and all that shit. You got to make sure your team is fired up and ready to go.
I absolutely agree. And furthermore, it just felt like for 4 quarters, excluding the one drive where they finally scored at the end, and even that was more like a fire drill. We're just running out of time. We got to go. But at no point did the offense feel in sync, any rhythm or any fluidity at all. Not one fucking series. Maybe the first one where they moved the ball a little bit, but it just
no. There was the oh shit. I'm drawing a blank now as to what quarter it was. I think it was in the middle of the second quarter. The Bears completed 3 long passes, one to Allen Robinson, one to Darryl Mooney. The third one was to the running back, David Montgomery. They got into the red zone, and they called timeout on first down.
And then
and
they missed the handoff.
They missed the handoff. And Nick Foles was asked about that. I should have pulled the sound, and he said that it was basically his fault, that he was so excited about the play that they had called. It was an RPO, and there was he has the opportunity of killing the play. If he sees the defense lined up in a certain way, it goes from a run to a pass or vice versa. He killed it, but there was miscommunication, and he took the blame for it. So all of a sudden now it's 3rd and 5. They don't convert the third down, and they settle for a field goal. But that was an excellent drive. It happened in the second quarter. Early-ish in the second quarter, and I thought to myself, well, it looks like they're getting the offense in a mojo, so I can't wait for the next series. No, nothing happened.
And even the thing that drives me crazy by Nagy, and I've said this 100 times already, and this is like week 5 of the podcast, but one of the sequences late in the game, he throws the ball deep, and there's a PI that saves us. I think it was Montgomery who was going to be the receiver on the play, and the pass interference was called, and that saved the drive. That was 4th and 2.
Yes.
Why? It's like if it's 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, that's when he's like, well, let's throw it 29 yards.
I agree.
How about get the first fucking down?
Yes, I totally
Take your fucking
agree.
shot on 1st or 2nd down when, if it's 1st and 10, then maybe take a play action shot deep. Why do you always do that when it's 3rd and short?
I agree. I am very frustrated by the fact that on 3rd downs and 4th downs, he seems to, like, more than 50% of the time go for a deep pass. And to me, it
confounds the mind.
Yeah, well, to me, it's because he's frustrated. And in fact, he talked about that at today's press conference about calibrating the offense with Nick Foles. He was asked, sometimes you get frustrated because things are not happening as quickly as you want them to in terms of the development of the offense.
Matt, you talked Monday about getting calibrated as an offense with Nick as a quarterback. What's the challenge for you as a coach of keeping the long view of obviously wanting results ASAP, but not becoming disproportionately frazzled if they don't happen immediately?
That was probably the biggest challenge for me, Dan, is knowing that. I mean, again, I'll just go back to Nick and myself, that first time calling a game together and just kind of going through that. And then his first time as a quarterback in this offense with different players and against a pretty good defense. So it's probably a good balance of understanding that could we have played a lot better on Sunday? Without a doubt. We know that. Is this going to take a little bit of time? Yes, it is. It's going to take some time. And so that's where us as coaches and as players, as long as we understand that, but also know that there's an ability to know that we need to get on this as soon as we can, whatever that is, and score points. That's the ultimate goal. So whatever that is, we need to do that. And we know that the time is now. We feel like we're in a good position at being 3-1 right now, and we don't want to lose sight of that. But we know too that we want to continue to just try to score as many points as possible.
What do you think about what he just said there?
I think he's speaking to use a cliche, out of both sides of his mouth. He's saying it's going to take some time, but the time is now. The time is fucking now. Don't give me that excuse that it's like, well, it's going to take some time, because again, the story has been this entire time that your offense was handcuffed because of Trubisky. So you got your boy in there, so let's see some fucking success. I just feel like the offense looked exactly the way it would have looked if Mitch would have played, and maybe that's not Mitch's fault. Maybe it's not Foles' fault. Maybe it is the bald bastard's fault who's our head coach. And I like him. I'm rooting for him. I want.
Doesn't sound like it to me like you like him.
No, I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for him. I'm starting to think that he's definitely underqualified for the job. And much like one of his plays where it's like he wants to outsmart you, I think that's kind of what Ryan Pace did with this hire, the same way Phil Emery did with Mark Trestman. I'm going to show you how smart we can be by bringing in this Star Trek guy as the head coach. But it just feels like, this is although to be fair, Ballard was supposed to be trying to hire him in Indianapolis.
Right.
That's what people were saying. So maybe I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth right now. I feel like the time is fucking now. You started out 3-0. And you can't just shit that away, especially during this pandemic, because as you've seen, you had a game last night that was supposed to be Sunday. Pittsburgh and Tennessee are going to have to be playing in week 8 now. They're going to have to shuffle their bye. This shit could really, really go down.
It could be a 9-game regular season. Right?
Yeah, it could be like 1982 when you have 9 weeks. So you need as many W's right now as you can get.
Right.
So you can be in contention in case something bad happens. And you've been given a good start. So don't blow that. They say 76% of 3-0 teams since 1990 have made the playoffs. Well, I can think of one that didn't, the 3-0 2013 Chicago Bears. So we don't want to repeat that shit. We want to be on the right side of that and get in. But you don't want to just get in and then get blown out in your wild card game either. So it really is up to him to come up with the scheme that justifies him having this job and proving that he is the guy that he claims to be, some mastermind.
Well, he's never really claimed that, but I get what you're saying. Now,
he's got to earn his keep, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. I am with you 100%. We want him to make better decisions. We want his decisions to result in wins and to result in points. There's no doubt about that. But there are a lot of extenuating circumstances. Part of it, like I said, was execution. Part of it is guys that are just not getting it done on a consistent basis. For instance, Anthony Miller, the wide receiver. The wide receiver that Ryan Pace traded back into the second round to acquire via the draft. His play seems to be incredibly inconsistent, and his playing time has been reduced. He is now playing fewer snaps than the rookie Darnell Mooney. He was out on the football field for 57% of the snaps, he being Mooney. Anthony Miller, 52% of the snaps. And the reason why is because Anthony Miller's catch rate has been reduced to 47%. He's dropping too many passes. Now, Nagy was asked today, Tuesday, are we seeing this reduction in Miller's playing time because you're frustrated with him? And this is what he said.
No, not at all, really, Jason. I think with Anthony, he's done a pretty good job now at earning that trust. He's definitely getting better week by week, year by year. That part I love. Probably the biggest reason for that is just some of the personnel that we have. He's in a lot of 11 personnel when we have 3 wideouts and 1 tight end. And so anytime you start getting into more tight ends into the game, it just naturally is going to cut back some of his workload. Now, when you're behind and you're in more passing mode, he's probably going to get more snaps. But I think you'll see as we go throughout the year that I'm not going to say a roller coaster, but there might be some games where he has certainly a lot more than others, but it's not because of anything. I mean, I think he's playing really good football right now.
That was a total bunch of bullshit there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And whose dick does Riley Ridley have to suck to get an opportunity here?
Exactly.
Fuck, man. Like, how many weeks is this guy going to be inactive? I didn't even see Javon Wims on the field Sunday. I'm sure he did get some plays. I didn't notice
he was
him.
out there, yes.
And Anthony Miller obviously is dropping passes and is starting to look like a potential. Imagine this, a Ryan Pace swing and a miss in the draft. We could sit here and count 10 people that were in the first or second round probably that were fucking busts. And he's looking like he could be one of those busts. So if you've got Miller struggling, Wims is just sort of invisible, not that it's his fault. And I was, under the understanding that he was Foles' guy during the preseason. That's what everybody kept saying. That's right. That was who he had chemistry with. I didn't see him targeted one time Sunday.
Here's what happened there with that soundbite. And there's some history here. You got to go back. I think it was after game 1 where Nagy was critical of Anthony Miller's play it was game 2, I think, where he dropped a couple of passes. And then Allen Robinson in a press conference said, I can't believe that he is getting publicly criticized. And he didn't mention the coach, didn't mention the media or anything, but he just said publicly criticized because this guy fights really hard, works really hard, and he shouldn't have to face that. So I talked to Anthony and so forth. And so I think that today on Tuesday, Matt Nagy was being complimentary because he didn't want to hurt feelings. He didn't want to upset A-Rob. He didn't want to upset Miller. And so that's why he said that bullshit. But the fact of the matter is that this guy is catching 47% of the balls thrown at him, a catch rate of 47%. That's not good. That is not good. And whether it's his fault or the quarterback's fault or the offensive line or the wide receiver coach or Lord Jesus Christ, somebody has better fix this thing because it's not good. This guy could become, as you just said, the next great bust for Ryan Pace. I'm worried. I'm worried about this. Very worried.
I absolutely agree. And like I said, you got Ridley sitting on the bench and you don't even really know what you have. He won't even give him an opportunity. And I mentioned this last week, not to, again, tug on my own cock, but Kmet, the rookie, he had 15 snaps. I saw that on Twitter, so I'm not trying to say I had written that down.
No, that's correct.
Yeah, but I think if you have this kid in Green Bay, he's probably caught 4 touchdowns already. And anytime we get a guy, same with Shaheen, who ended up being a bust, we don't even try to utilize him. I just don't understand it. I mean, like when Greg Olsen was a rookie, we threw him the fucking ball. But beyond that, it's like we got to bring him in slowly. We always say that. It's like we don't utilize our resources. I just don't understand.
That's the interesting thing is that you see Kmet's snaps reduced, you see Miller's snaps reduced, and you see Mooney's snaps go up. So what does that tell you? Does that tell you that they have more trust in Darnell Mooney than the fellow rookie tight end Cole Kmet and the veteran, because that's what he is now, the veteran Anthony Miller, his 3rd year?
Or as Rich Gannon kept saying, his 2nd year.
That's right. Good old Rich.
God. Yeah, I mean, God, how do you get this shit wrong? I know that we're Bears fans, but if I'm paid to be on CBS,
thank you.
Fucking, man, you should know, even if you have to write it down and just glance at the sheet.
All right. I mean,
God damn it. How many times can you say the 2nd-year receiver, Anthony Miller? He's in his 3rd year, and he is very close to being yet another one of Pace's picks. They won't get a second contract.
Right.
And so is Trubisky, unfortunately.
I can go into a whole diatribe about these national media announcers, broadcasters. They come into town and they sit down for a 20-minute meeting with the coach, and that's their preparation for announcing the game. They have all week to look at tape, to talk to reporters, to talk to players, to talk to coaches, to prepare, but it doesn't seem like they do. They make all of these stupid mistakes, from mispronouncing a player's name to getting stats wrong to getting facts wrong. It really drives me crazy. And I man, if I was running one of the sports networks, that would be a fireable offense. Rich Gannon, come into my office. You do that again and you're gone, because I will not put up with that. It drives me nuts, man.
And I feel like I agree, those analysts usually come in. Now, let me say real quick, I like Greg Gumbel a lot, and I think Greg Gumbel's very underrated.
Yes, I agree.
But the point you're making is not Gumbel who's making those mistakes. It's Rich Gannon or the other color commentator that's going to come in and do that. But what they always do, too, is whatever the consensus is what they just they regurgitate it back out.
Mm-hmm.
There's never any deep dive or – if the story, for example, was that Mitch was struggling, that's the one Jonathan Vilma's going to beat his dick on all week long or all game long, because he wants to appear to be smart. Mm-hmm. So he's going to say what he thinks people are going to agree with. Versus, if you have somebody, I'm not a huge fan of Sims or Esiason, but either one of them would at least come in and tell you that, well, I watched the tape, or Collinsworth too will come in and tell you, well, I watched the video and I disagree with this, or they don't always have to go with the consensus viewpoint. Not that I'm saying that these guys are great. Like I said, not a huge Collinsworth fan, not a huge Sims fan, not a huge Boomer guy, but at least they will tell you what their opinion, if it differs from what the majority view is.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly John Madden did that.
Yes, he definitely did. I got 2 or 3 questions here that I want you to answer. Number 1, if you were told you got to make one of these 2 moves after Thursday's game, no matter what happens Thursday, you've either got to fire Chris Tabor, the special teams coach, or you have to take the play calling away from Matt Nagy and give it to somebody else on the staff, probably Laser. Which are you picking?
Nagy.
Why?
Chris Tabor should have been fired during 2 years ago.
Should have never been hired.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, the Bears special teams have struggled for a decade now.
Yeah.
I still think Nagy himself became a coordinator based upon Andy Reid's willingness to say, I need someone with some fresh ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I've gone stagnant on the play calling. And that's where we got Matt Nagy from. And so maybe he should look to his hero, Andy Reid. I don't mean that. Well, yes, I do mean that mean-spiritedly. he wants to suck Reid's dick so badly. Then maybe he should do the same thing and say, all right. You guys, we've worked this entire offseason to construct a running game, and it was successful until I immediately put us back in the shotgun every other play or every play. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the reason that we're struggling. So I would love it if he would, at the very least, start listening to other people and stop being you. Be you is the reason we're losing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being a dick now, but I'm just saying, God damn it, you're the head coach. I mean, maybe if you paid attention to what's going on the defense just a little bit, maybe you can tell Pagano, hey man, fucking blitz on this play. Instead of looking at your sheet and what we're going to do, what gimmick play can I catch them? What can I do to make myself look smart on the next series?
I agree with you. It really bothers me a lot. I'm the kind of coach. I prefer, I should say, that the head coach is managing all aspects. He's managing the offensive coordinator who is calling the plays. He's managing the defensive coordinator who's calling the plays, and he's managing the special teams coordinator. He's overseeing the entire operation instead of being so involved with just one aspect of the football game. And that's just not right. He's got his eyes on the field only 40% of the time because he's looking at that play calling sheet 60% of the time. Now, I know there have been successful coaches who are offensive play callers or defensive play callers. I know that, but I'm just stating my preference. But in my opinion, I would probably fire Chris Tabor first because this guy just, to me, appears so incompetent. I mean, that just drives me nuts. All right, so second question for you. I probably got about 20 questions here, so tell me when you get tired of this segment.
No, can I say one thing first,
Sure.
just real quick? I meant to say this last week on the broadcast, and I forgot about it. As soon as I was driving around the job, I wished I would have said it. And it goes along with Nagy. And again, this is something everyone could say, and maybe it's just frivolous nonsense, and maybe I'm wrong. But the fact that he comes out in his press conference after the Falcon game and talks about how, he made the move to go to Foles, and then Trubisky, when he's interviewed, and everyone gave him thumbs up for that and said he didn't have to talk to the media, and he did anyway. He said, no, it wasn't Coach Nagy who came up to me. It was Laser.
Right.
So, I mean, he didn't even have the temerity or the balls, or maybe not even the balls is the word, maybe just the fuck to be a man to go up to Mitch and take him out. He didn't even have the decency to go do it himself, when part of Mitch's failure is on him too.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I thought that he owed Mitch the respect of going up to him and saying, listen, I want to give Nick a shot here. And that was not a good thing. And frankly, I've heard a couple of stories through the grapevine of other things that Coach Nagy has done. I'll give you one example. There was a player, this was in Nagy's rookie season, who was dropped by the team. He was waived by the team at the point where they were deciding on the 53-man roster. And that player was really upset because he told someone here at the bar room that he was told by Nagy, don't worry, you're going to make the team. And then he was dropped, and it wasn't Nagy who told him he was dropped. That is an an allegation by and it doesn't come to me from that player. It comes to me from somebody else. So take that with a grain of salt. But if that's true, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. And this guy who's got the reputation of being a player's coach that could be a mirage for all we know. Could be a mirage.
Yeah, it feels like he does whatever he can to make himself look like, I just feel like he really wanted Trubisky vilified to the point where he can say, hey, it's not my fault. It's this guy's fault.
Right. It does appear to be clear that he's not a Trubisky fan.
No. I mean, at the end of the day, he was in charge of developing this guy.
Right.
And part of the reason he was hired,
right,
I'm guessing, I wasn't in the meeting, but it was that he accepted that responsibility of saying, I can develop your raw second pick in the draft. He's got skill. He needs playing time. I think that's probably part of the selling job was he's like, oh, I love Trubisky.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the guy. I can make him into,
Alex
a winning quarterback.
I can make him into Alex Smith. I've been around the process of doing that. So, yeah, totally. All right, so
that failure's on him, too, and he should have had the decency to tell Mitch, hey, man, I'm sorry, but look, we got to go with Foles right now.
All right, my next question is, if you had your choice, who would be the starting quarterback right now, Mitch or Nick?
You can't take Foles out right now. You've already made that decision to keep him in. You have to start Foles Thursday. Do you mean like going forward or just Thursday? I think Thursday definitively. It's not fair to Foles to pull him now. And obviously he's got a resume that Mitchell doesn't have.
Mm-hmm.
So he can say, hey, it's not my fault this bullshit this game plan was put into play for Sunday. No pun not to be redundant. It's not my fault that we had this crappy ass fucking offensive scheme. So yeah, I would say you have to stick with Foles. I mean, there were some throws where I thought, especially the one where he was on the run and completely missed it. He threw the ball out of bounds. I think it was to Mooney on the right sideline. You just know Mitch could have made that throw.
Mm-hmm.
The one on the run, that's the one he could definitely make. But even so, you've already made your decision. You have to see it through now, in my opinion.
Yep. I agree with that. You got to ride Nick all the way to the playoffs, hopefully. But because I think Mitch's days in Chicago are done. I mean, the only way he's going to see playing time is if Nick Foles gets hurt. And even if Foles goes out there and has a couple of consecutive mediocre performances, I still think you're going to have to stick with Foles.
Dan and Aldo will be right back.
You know the story about Skydome in the early days. You know, they had the
hotel.
The hotel.
And people could peek out of their hotel rooms.
And then there was this one time, I think this is a true story, there was this one time they had a bachelor party there, and all the players, and I guess they didn't close the curtains.
No, they didn't.
Because they had a little entertainment going on, and the game actually stopped so all the players could say, what's going on up there?
They had stuff going on, and you had people there that were banging each other.
Literally.
The Grobstein-Schuster Zone, only on the Bears Barroom Radio Network.
We now return to Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls.
I got a question for you. What would happen on a national television game Thursday night? Foles comes out and just completely shits the bed, like 3 picks in the first quarter and a half. The first half is what I'm trying. Making this too difficult. Like early in the game, like you just know if the crowd would be there, they'd be booing him. Like, and now you got it on national TV, and then Nagy's thinking, "Oh shit, it's on. Everyone's gonna be pointing it out on me now." Does he freak out? Because it seems like he's the guy that's gonna take up for himself over you.
Yeah,
I mean, you're gonna be fired before he is. So it's not like he's going down. If he's the Titanic ship guy, he's gonna make sure he has a fucking escape boat, and you're gonna freeze to death.
That's the impression that we're getting based on the move of benching Trubisky and putting Foles in. If that move basically said, "I am a good head coach. I'm an offensive genius. All I need is a competent quarterback. Nick, you're in. Mitch, you're out." So
do you think he would panic and put Trubisky back in if Foles was just fucking terrible?
Well, I think if he threw those 3 interceptions and he as the head coach knows, okay, this wasn't because the guy ran a bad route, or this wasn't because of quarterback pressure because of the offensive line, this was Nick just not having a good night, then I would completely hope and endorse that he does make a quarterback change. So
do you think he would, though?
Yeah,
I could make the argument that he would to save his own ass, but then I could also make that same argument and say he wouldn't want people to question his original decision, so he would just be stubborn and stick with Foles.
No, I think he would. We saw it with, we sort of saw it when Trubisky had that partial injury. What was that? Was it a Monday night game? Yeah, it was a Monday night game. He put Chase Daniel in late in the fourth quarter.
Oh, you mean against the Rams?
Yeah, was it the Rams?
Yeah, there was a Sunday night game where he benched Trubisky and Mitch allegedly cried.
That's it. So yeah, based on his past history, I'd have to say that he probably would do it. But I don't know about this guy. Baffles me sometimes.
I was thinking about this too. At this point last year, I remember I was in Louisville, and obviously there's been a lot of news in Louisville in the last couple of weeks on the same stretch where a lot of that violence was happening because I was downtown. But it's the only Bears game that I willingly missed in almost 2 decades was that Viking game last season because I was at a music festival and a 3-day festival called Louder Than Life. But so after that game, the Bears were 3-1 last year, and we're coming off their best defensive effort of the entire season, the best they were going to be all of last year by far. And they smothered the Vikings, just beat the shit out of the Vikings. And then they had a chance to beat the Raiders and lost it in London, and Hicks got hurt. And that felt like that started the downfall of the whole season. But to me, as a guy who's criticized the defense, as you know, more so than most, I feel like the defense hasn't had a great game since that 1 year ago today, or not 1 year ago today, but week 4 of 2019. And he had a 3-1 team last year, and they didn't go to the playoffs. So what's he going to do with it this year? Looking forward, let's just hope we can get there though this time.
Yes. What's your confidence level that we're going to make the playoffs?
I may sound negative and like criticizing Nagy or even Khalil Mack. But when we're watching a game Thursday, like I never give up. even if it's 29-3 or whatever that Super Bowl was for the Falcons, 28-3, or whatever the score is, I'm always thinking, hey, even Sunday I tweeted like, okay, it's 16-3. Let's win this game 17-16 now. Like, I'm always thinking of the angle that we'll come back and win. Like, I never give up.
I'm glad to hear that, because I really dislike it when fans give up. When fans are...
I never give up. I never quit watching.
Yeah.
If it's 40, like I remember the game week 2 of 2000, the Bears in Tampa, and we lost 41-0. And like I said, I always remember for some reason that Michael Jordan was at that game in the press box or one of the private suites. Like, I watched that all the way through. Like that's the one that sticks out. Like, or opening day, we lost in 2003 to San Francisco 49-7 in Cordell Stewart's first game as a Bear. It was horrible. He threw a touchdown to Des Clark, the only score we had all day. I watched the whole game. Like, I don't stop. Like, I watched the whole game, even when it's a drubbing. And even though the score was only, 19-11, it felt like we lost by at least 20 on Sunday. Which is the irony of that. We never felt like we were in it, even though we were in it.
Yes.
If the Bears would have won it, they would have completely stolen the game. You can say we came back and beat Atlanta and beat Detroit. Maybe we stole those, but at least it felt like in both situations, Trubisky's drives and then Foles' drives, they got into an obvious rhythm, and it felt like, hey, we're going to come back. We never really felt that on Sunday. That it just. They were so flat, and maybe it's because the Colts defense is better than I'm giving them credit for. But it felt like we didn't give ourselves a chance to win the game, we being the coaching staff. That's because I don't believe that the offensive line can be that bad.
Yeah. I was producing the Grobstein and Schuster Zone show yesterday, and Les Grobstein said that the Bears are lucky that they're not 0-4, and he's right. Those 3 wins were come from behind wins. It looked like defeats, and
they had a big lead on the Giants actually.
That is right. That is right. So 2 out of those 3 wins
but they got lucky to hold on because at the end you're 1 play away from losing that game too.
So. How good is this team really? We're going to find out. I think a big test comes this Thursday against the Bucs. Now, my third question for you was, we played the Green Bay Packers at Green Bay for the first of 2 matchups this season, of course, on November 29th. So there's 6 games between now and then. The Buccaneers at Soldier Field.
Carolina.
Against the Panthers. At L.A. on a Sunday night game against the Rams. At home against the Saints, at Tennessee against the Titans, of course, and then the Vikings at home. So my question to you is, what record is this team going to have when they face the Packers November 29th? So again, it's Buccaneers, Panthers, Rams, Saints, Titans, Vikings, and then the Packers. What do you think their record's going to be?
I'm not to sound like a bitch here, but I can't answer your question because I can never, and I'm completely blinded by my fandom on this. I will never tell you going into the game that the Bears are going to lose. Never. I don't care if it's the 94 playoff game where you're going to San Francisco and they look like an historically great team. I'm like, well, fuck, man. Joe Willie beat the Colts. They're 18-point underdogs, and he guaranteed they're going to win, and they won. Like, why can't that be us?
That's right.
I will never concede defeat or think that the Bears are going to lose, even if it looks like the Bears are going to lose. Like, I'm worried about Thursday, for example, because Tom Brady has never lost to the Bears. I will go to my grave saying that the Patriots got 44 calls in 2002 that gave them the game, and I felt jobbed and cheated. 06 had a shot. They beat us. 10 was in the snow out there at Soldier Field, and it was a blowout. 14 was a blowout in New England. And then 18, it was the Kevin White Trubisky Hail Mary, half yard short. He's never lost to us. And He had that big comeback. I was watching. I made a commitment. I was going to watch Tampa's game so I could speak more about the Buccaneers this week. Whereas last week I failed on the Colts segment, but I had the breakup during the fucking Charger game. So I saw the Chargers are up, and the kid was looking good at quarterback. He's throwing the ball. They're up 24-7 or whatever. And then it's like one of those deals. Like I would see the play out of the corner of my eye, and then I was afraid to look. I'm like, oh shit, Tampa's scoring, but she's in the middle of a soliloquy here. I can't. If I turn away and I listen to the fucking broadcast, I'm going to be an asshole. So I'd be like, oh, Tampa just scored. Okay, go ahead, Sarah. But I had to pay attention to her. And
what happened between the two of you guys? I thought you guys were going to last a long time. What happened between you and Sarah?
Well, okay. As you know, the sum of it, the quick synopsis. My attorney, when I got divorced, wanted me to go bankrupt, and I didn't. Mm-hmm. And I've been fighting to get out of that financial devastation that came with that divorce and having to pay so much money to match the equity in my house to keep everything. So point is, a lot of people, yourself, you've been divorced, so I would imagine at some point you had a similar bit of drama.
Oh yeah.
And so I've been trying to crawl out of that. As a result, I've had to work enormous amounts of hours. Mm-hmm. So from my perspective, look, I'm working 65, 70 hours a week. I'm giving you all the free time I have. Now, to be fair to her, she's watching the Bear games with me. So it's not like, I'm telling her through 3 hours that we can't be together. Mm-hmm. But she's watching the game, and she's fun to watch the game with. She's not bitching or complaining, and she's clapping and shit along when big plays are happening. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I'm giving all I can give. I'm giving you all my spare time. I'm calling you in between jobs. I'm giving you everything I got. And it's always like, well, I need more from you. Why didn't you text me and tell me that you wanted to see me today? Or why tell me to have a good day? I'm like, well, fuck, I just tweeted you Donald Trump just cost us this goddamn stimulus package. Why can't that count for it? Or fuck Nancy Pelosi. I would think those would count as, hey, have a good day. But from my perspective, it felt like I was getting attacked on a lot of frivolous, nonsensical issues about dude, I'm tired. I don't have time I'm as flat as the Bears fucking team today against the Colts because I'm exhausted. Mm-hmm. But I'm here. I'm with you. I'm physically with you. That should count. Mm-hmm. But she thought that I wasn't, I don't know, happy enough around her or something. I'm like, dude, my fucking mom died. I just went through a divorce. I'm sullen. I'm unhappy, but I'm just not because of you. I'm happy when I'm with you, but maybe I did a poor job of conveying the thought. So I think we amicably, she wants more. I'm like, look, I don't have any more to give. So, we decided to call it quits, but I'd like to think we're still friends. She said, can I still use your HBO password? I'm like, fuck, yeah, of course. Of course. I encourage. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I don't have any hostility toward her, and she's a brilliant lady. She's got a master's degree.
Really? In what?
Yeah, she's a school teacher.
Oh, nice.
And that's what I liked about her was her mind more than anything, because I could say, repudiate or something, and she wouldn't look at me like, the fuck are you trying to say? I don't know what do you mean brazen?
She wasn't brazen about your intellect, and she would never repudiate the use of the word repudiate.
Right. So, yeah. So I could have a conversation with her. Mm-hmm. And that was very important to me. And she's a good girl. She's smart. But I didn't have enough energy to give her, or maybe my biggest crime was a lack of attention. Mm-hmm. Even though it wasn't intentional. It's
something that men are guilty of often in relationships, from my experience. But
yeah,
the key thing is that it was an amicable breakup. And Sarah, if you're listening, if you want to come on the show and share your
tell
side
me
of
that
the
I'm
story.
an asshole. No, I don't think she would, though. I honestly don't. I think she told me, she said, you're a good guy, and I don't want to quote her, and I'm not trying to put myself over here. She said, you're a good guy. You're respectful. You always show gratitude. You always are conscientious about my feelings. She just like, maybe we're just better as friends, though.
That's nice. Well, and one final question about Sarah. Does she like married older men?
I don't know, really. She hasn't dated a lot, actually, because she was just so focused on her school. And she grew up religious, too.
Oh.
Not that she's, like, crazy religious or anything. And I'm not even saying her parents were. But she just it was one of those things, like, you weren't supposed to have sex until you got married, like, beaten into her whole life. And then she went through college straight and everything, and she just cared more about her education than dating. So she hasn't had a lot of boyfriends, actually.
Well, I hope that she's happy, and again, she has an open invitation to come on here and talk sports with us and talk about Dan Aguirre.
Yeah, she went to West Virginia University, so she's a big Mountaineer fan. That's where she got her degree from. But like she said, she didn't mind rooting for the Bears with us because she didn't really watch the pros anyway. She just watched the West Virginia games.
Okay. All right, you got something for this day in history?
I do. It's a fun one. For all the shit that I've spoken about Urlacher, this was one of the highlights of his early run. October the 7th, it was going to be tomorrow, and that's the one I went with because everyone's going to hear this on the 7th. Excellent. They're not going to hear it tonight on the 6th, I presume, because it's already 11 p.m. Eastern.
That's correct.
So I'm going with October the 7th. So October the 7th, 2001, the Chicago Bears at the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Bears had lost opening day. Was that they went to the Ravens and lost 17-6, and then 9/11 happened. You had the week off, and then they beat the Minnesota, and then they go to Atlanta, and this is the game that's notable for a couple of things because Chris Chandler, who was going to be a Bear the next year, mind you, got injured, and Michael Vick's fans were cheering him when he was injured because Vick got into the game, and that was his first NFL action. So it was the debut of Michael Vick and to the demise of Chris Chandler. And there was a big play late in the game where Urlacher, I don't remember if it was a fumble recovery or an interception, but it was a fumble. I'm pretty sure it was a fumble. And he went like 90, 95 yards. And even though he was married at the time, but he's running and he's talking to the Falcons cheerleaders, which was a really good moment. And we're wearing all white in the game, which is what we all want for some reason that the Bears refuse to do, especially after Gale Sayers died. They wanted some kind of tribute, to Gale.
Right.
But the Bears would win that game convincingly 31-3. It also featured a touchdown pass to Marcus Robinson from Marty Booker. Let's see. Jim Miller threw a touchdown to Marty Booker as well. Then Urlacher, and then I'm looking at Pro Football Reference now. And then A-Train scored late too. So 31-3 Bears. The Bears would be 2-1 on this day tomorrow, October the 7th of 2001.
What is your all-time favorite Bears team?
Oh man, it's kind of hard not to, go to the Ditka run, right? I was going to bring up Coach Ditka earlier, too, when we were talking about, Nagy probably said this because of the comments that Allen Robinson made. And I'm not saying that isn't true. That probably is true. But could you imagine Ditka playing like, I'm going to go say this because I might hurt Dennis McKinnon's feelings? Like, you would never get that. No. And I know everybody's not Mike Ditka, and I know it's a different era.
Right.
But I'm just saying you would never get him to sugarcoat something. He's going to tell you that Harbaugh was a fuck up by calling that audible.
Yep.
I told him not to call audible, and he did because he thinks he knows more than I do. He's going to fucking give you his passion.
He might have. No more. I got to tell you, Mike Ditka, for many reasons I love, and for a few reasons I just thought he was a bad coach. Jim McMahon was on the Mike North Advantage here in the Barroom Network and said Mike Ditka was a great tight end. I would have loved to have had him tight end, but he called plays like a tight end, and that's right. Being nice. Ditka had no idea how to run a successful offense in the NFL. He really, really didn't. And he really if it wasn't for Jerry Vanisi, the general manager of Chicago Bears, he would have been fired before that 85 team because he had such a volatile temper, and it was driving the Bears up higher ups, the McCaskies and so forth. It was driving them fucking nuts that this guy was crazy. And Jerry Vanisi came to his rescue a number of times and calmed him down and said, you can't say that. You can't do that. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Kept him employed until they won that Super Bowl. And then when Jerry Vanisi left and McCaskey, Ed McCaskey, the junior, he had to deal with Ditka one-on-one. Boy, oh boy, McCaskey just wanted to get rid of him so quickly, but he knew that he was dealing with the most popular guy in Chicago, the most popular guy.
And Michael McCaskey wanted all the credit, too.
Yes, it's Michael McCaskey. Exactly. That's who I meant.
Yeah, Michael wanted to – I didn't mean to contradict
No,
him.
please.
I remember Jim McMahon even saying, not on that show, which I listened to intently, but McMahon said that I'm paraphrasing, but when he saw Michael McCaskey like hugging the Vince Lombardi trophy, he was like, you are no part of this.
Yeah,
this has nothing to do with you. We earned this. But he was acting like he was being coronated. At least that's the way the players, or at least the way McMahon interpreted it. And he was always sort of jealous of the popularity of Mike Ditka.
Yep. He was very jealous about that. But I got to tell you, when Ditka was ultimately fired, I thought it was a justified firing, even though I did not like Michael McCaskey. It was clear and obvious that Ditka was no longer the right man for the job. He came in at a good time. The team needed a good kicking in the ass. In his very first camp, he cleaned out Ricky Watts, the wide receiver. He cleaned out his locker, threw him out. He says, if you ain't going to work hard, if you ain't going to do what I'm saying, then you're out. And he did that as a sign to everybody on the team that he wasn't going to take any shit. And that's what that team needed. It needed
then
that
the lineman,
discipline.
Too. Was it Noah Jackson?
Yeah,
Was that his name?
Buddha, yeah. He did the same
he threw
thing.
him out in 84, not throwing him out of the locker room, but released him. And they didn't, no one saw that coming, at the time. So I still think I wish I could have been an adult through that era, because the Bears were just like, even if you say, well, they were good enough to beat Tampa Bay and Green Bay and Detroit and Minnesota, and that's how they, won the NFC Central, and maybe they weren't good enough to beat the San Francisco's, Washingtons, and the Giants, and that's why they won one championship. But fuck, man, it's still good. It still feels good to beat the shit out of the Packers every year, and that's what he did. And so I caught on the tail end of that, and like I said, 87, 8, 9, 91, 92 for the end of the Ditka run for me. So I still think that that's what I aspired to be, where you just always felt like you had a chance, except for 89 when you're just losing all those in a row. And Ditka said, we may not win another game, and we don't. I mean, other than that, you just felt like, hey, we're going to get to the Super Bowl this year. Like, again, the 87 team, I thought that for sure. The 88 team, the championship game, they were hosting. They should have fucking won. And then 90, you're in the second round. 91, again, you lose to the Cowboys at the end. But you just felt like I was on Bragg's show talking to Tom Waddle, if you don't mind me telling you this real quick.
No, not at all. Please.
So I told Tom Waddle, and I said, I'm going to give you what you refer to on your air as the truth serum. And I want your honest opinion of what you thought would have happened. I said, because a lot of us Bear fans thought if Cody Parkey makes the field goal, we go to the Super Bowl, right? A lot of people said that. I said, well, I always thought that about 1991. I was like, for whatever reason, let's say they come back and they beat Dallas. And maybe because I said, I know I'm not trying to be funny, but Waddle didn't remember the second half because he was concussed and everything. But Harbaugh throws a pick. And again, it was so long ago, so I don't expect him to necessarily remember that. Plus, he had a concussion. But the Bears had the ball down 17-13 with a chance. Harbaugh gets intercepted. I was like, but let's just say, for example, he leads the drive and you win. You come back from behind. The next week, you go to Detroit. The Lions, you've already played them twice. Eric Kramer is going to light Dallas up for 38 points. They use Barry Sanders as a decoy all day. You're not going to do that against the Bears. He's not going to throw for 350 yards on the Bears. He's just not.
Right.
And the Bears were good enough because they'd seen Barry a bunch that they could stop Barry. Of course, he had his moments because he's Barry fucking Sanders. Of course, he has his moments. He's going to get 130, 40 yards. But there's also a pile of games where the Bears didn't allow him to have but 50. So I said to him, I think that you go in there and the combination. He brought up that when they lost to San Francisco on Monday night, because the last game of the year, if the Bears would have beaten San Francisco, they would have won the division and Detroit would have been the wild card. And they showed footage of Wayne Fontes lighting up a cigar when the Bears were losing.
Right.
And the Ditka was pissed off.
Yes.
So I said, well, okay, you got that going. Like, Ditka's mad. You're going to go play the Lions. I say you beat the Lions, and then you're going to the NFC Championship game. And I was like, you lost to Washington in Week 6 because Charles Mann had like 5 sacks of Harbaugh. But my argument is you've already played them once. You can shift your blocking. The Bears still have a great offensive line at that point, even though they're older, but it's still the 85 line. They can find a way to block Charles Mann, even if it's using Muster or Anderson or whatever to chip a lot. But I said, you've already lost to them once. I feel like that experience, you can upset Washington, and then you're going to the Super Bowl. And then you're playing Buffalo, a team you've already played, and you played solid in the first half at Rich Stadium at their place. It was close. I don't remember the score, but it was like a 3-point deficit at the half, and then things got away from you late. So I was like, he's like, well, you make a really good argument. In that I was like, you could beat Detroit. You've already played Washington. You've already played Buffalo. Then you can win the Super Bowl. So, truth serum, what do you think about that, Mr. Waddle? And he goes, he's like, you make a good argument, but I just feel like maybe some of that's too much of rooting for things to happen versus reality. But the only thing I could get him to kind of concede is he didn't come out and say it, but I think he implied that, okay, yeah, you're right, we would have beaten the Lions. But he wouldn't go any farther than say that they would have beaten Washington.
Yeah.
Isn't it fun? It's fun that Mark Rippon's nephew played last week?
Yeah, I thought that was very cool. Yep.
Yeah, so, and it's too bad that Jim Kelly's nephew, I don't know what the fuck happened to him. I guess he had a bad attitude.
Joshua Kelly?
Was this Chad? I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, it is. I got the name wrong. Yeah.
He played with the Broncos, too.
Right.
And then got cut. Yeah, it's too bad.
Apparently he had a drinking problem is what I heard.
Yeah, he was always in trouble or something. It's just too bad that I like that lineage, though, even though it was not a Mark Rippon fan.
No, really?
And I thought that that team, even though they won the Super Bowl and he was MVP, I was like, this should be the Bears. Like that whole Super Bowl, I was like, we could beat this team.
Yeah.
We could beat this fucking team. Same thing with their 87 team. I'm like, God damn it, how did we lose to this team? How is Doug Williams throwing these touchdowns right now? It should be us in this game. Like just the envy. The envy's palpable from me with the Redskins or the football team. It's so weird to see that on Direct TV. It'll be like Browns at the football team. Like, who the fuck is that? Oh yeah, that's Washington. But I guess the short answer was to say that Ditka era, maybe it's because I was young, but they were always in it and it was fun. You had a coach that even if they underachieved because of the coach, but it just the character and the characters on the team, which have been, the myth. It's a mythology now. But just that era is so fun. The Wani era, I can look back on and say early on they had a shot, and then it fell apart. But like we both agreed, they always played hard for Wani.
Very much
and
so.
Dick Duran had the 1 year, and literally they had so much. In 99 where you thought 2000 was going to be a year and they were fucking 5-11, but they come back 13-3, then they come back 4-12 after that. And then Lovey's more than so much disappointment with the Lovey era, whether, the 7-3 with Cutler and the thumb, and then 7-1 the next year, losing the Super Bowl, having the same team essentially and coming back 7-9, losing that playoff game to Carolina. So, a lot of disappointment. Trestman's era, John Fox's era, okay, and here we are with Nagy. I mean, wouldn't you agree that Ditka's the best era of them?
Oh, definitely, without a doubt, because of the results. But I do have a love-hate relationship with Mike Ditka's coaching, and love the fact that he came in, added discipline, took us to the Super Bowl, but hate the fact that he did not lead the team properly because they had more Super Bowl wins in them. He became an egomaniac. He started practically stealing away endorsements from the players. The players are very upset at him because he said to them, you got to during the season, you got to focus on football. And so they were saying no to endorsement deals, and then they turn on the TV, and there's fucking Ditka selling the thing that they were supposed to sell. And so
Otis Wilson really wrote about that in his book.
Yes,
If These Walls Can Talk.
Yes, written by, as told to, I should say, Chet Kopic, who is a Chicago sports icon here. And there is that one part in that book where Otis accuses Mike Ditka of being a racist.
Racist.
Exactly. Something that is rarely talked about here in Chicago sports circles. But it was a very, very strong allegation, and Otis threatened to go public and tell everybody, this guy is a fucking racist, and I got plenty of examples about it. So be that as it may, who knows the truth? I don't know it. You and I don't know it, but I'll let that go and just say that Ditka deserves a hell of a lot of credit in so many ways. I love him. He gave me a lot of thrills, but boy, oh boy, he should have given me another Super Bowl ring or two. That's for sure.
I agree. And just because of the West Virginia in me, I will reference that Otis's son was a solid running back here. In high school, at the time, it was like 98.
Mm-hmm.
He played for a school called Weir, and he had a state record for the rushing yards. And then he went to West Virginia University and did fairly successful there. His name was Quincy Wilson.
Oh, wow.
He was a running back, but he never made it in the pros. But he was a great high school running back here and solid at West Virginia University as well. I don't know why he grew up in West Virginia or how that happened. Mm-hmm. But then again, Otis went to Louisville, which is kind of close. But still, Otis was like a Brooklyn guy.
Mm.
So I don't know if he just fucked a lady here or what. I don't know. But Quincy Wilson was in West Virginia. Yeah. So.
All right, Dan, I think it is time for us to wrap this one up. You got any final words?
I blame myself for the loss because I discredited Phillip Rivers. I did, and I loved it when he was taunting Roquan, saying the back got around the corner because you're too slow or whatever he said. And Roquan, we were talking in our little chat, like Tooch and us.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, Roquan is on the cusp of being in that not getting a second contract kind of guy too.
No.
We got to see more from Roquan, man. We got to see more. Now, I'm not even saying that because of the interception. We have to see more from all of these linebackers.
Danny Trevathan is not playing well, and part of it is he's definitely lost a step. I don't think he did a good job of conditioning during the pandemic. He athletically, he's actually looked a bit better these last 2 weeks. But what was troubling against the Colts was that he was, on a couple of plays, I noticed he was taking himself out of position to miss tackles. In fact, I will put up a play on our Twitter handle at Bears Barroom to illustrate what I'm talking about. He's just making some bad decisions, and maybe this goes back to Chuck Pagano taking the blame, saying I have to do a better job of putting our guys in good position. But in one play that I'm going to share with everybody, it's Trevathan calling the defensive play, and the defense shifts to the left, and the running back runs to that open area that was vacated by the linebackers and picks up a big first down. So I'm concerned about Trevathan, not as concerned with Roquan Smith. I think he's still playing well, but he needs Robin to his Batman.
Well, I'm going to say, since we're running out of time for me to go to my other job, I will say that, and I'm biased, I admit, but the bright lights, they know everybody's watching.
Mm-hmm.
They know that's Tom Brady. Everybody on that team has a heart that's beating in their chest. There's no way the Bears come out flat Thursday. There's no way. If they do, then Nagy deserves his ass whipped. I'm telling you.
No, I agree.
He needs to be attacked. No, I'm not. I'm joking. I'm just saying. The point is, there's no way this team comes out flat. I don't know how. I think the Bears will will come out with the win. I don't know how or why. Maybe I'm biased, but I think that they play down to the competition. They could play, a 3-13 Cincinnati team, just making one up, and it would be competitive. I feel like they don't have a go for your throat, mentality like say the Ditka team to just blow you out. And so likewise, I think that they will be up though for the team that's perceived to be great because of Brady and because of all the media attention, and it's a primetime game. So I think they arrived. They're at home, for fuck's sake. I think somehow we pull off the upset.
I hope so. I'm worried about, again, I'm an old-fashioned guy. It's the line of scrimmage, and I just think that the Bucs are going to prevail in this game because they're going to control the line of scrimmage throughout this game. But hopefully I am wrong. That's, and it's really, really tough for me to say. There have been so many resources poured into both the offensive and defensive line of this team. I mean, when you look at Cody Whitehair, second-round draft pick, James Daniels, second-round draft pick, Jermaine Ifedi, a free agent pickup. They're not paying him a lot of money. It's a prove-it deal, but I think he was like a first or second-round draft pick with Seattle. And then the money that's being paid to the two outside tackles, there's a lot of resources poured into that. And then you bring in you fire a respected offensive line coach and you bring in somebody else who is supposed to improve that offensive line. And he did, it looked like, for the first two games, but the last two games, there's been a regression. And then, of course, the big money paid to Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn on the defensive line. And we're not seeing the production out of those two guys in terms of sacks. Akeem Hicks is playing well, 3.5 sacks. But boy, oh boy, we just have to see domination and the line of scrimmage. And I'm afraid we might not see that. And so that's why I think the Bucs are probably going to do what Vegas is saying and pull out this win. So hopefully,
what's the point spread?
I think it's 3.5. But don't hold me to that.
I would say that my only counter argument to that is, of course, all that's true, but I'll say that Foles can't. I hope I don't think he could be any worse than he was Sunday. You'd have to think he's going to be much better, and the Bears' defense is due, because as much as I criticize them, it's from love. It's not like I think that they suck. That's why I'm mad, because I think they're underperforming. So I think they're due to get some turnovers or finally get to the quarterback and get some sacks. So I think the defense is due. Foles is due. And one thing we haven't even mentioned, by the way, is that we signed Lamar Miller, the running back. I mean, I don't know if he's going to have any chance of ever making the team. He's on the practice squad.
I think the word is that he will be activated, not this week, but for the next game. Who is it that we play after? The
Carolina.
That he and I hope that he looks similar to the guy that came out of college with that 4.4 speed, but he had an ACL injury last season, so who knows what he's going to look like.
Oh, I got one more stat for you, and I got to go.
Okay.
The Bears have played in Charlotte 4 times ever.
Mm-hmm.
I have attended 3 of those 4 games. The Bears are 0-3 when I'm in attendance.
Oh, thank God there's a pandemic.
And they won the game that I didn't go to. So, they lost in 0-2. They had a lead with it was the combination of Chris Chandler and Henry Burris. Yes. But they had a 17. He's on our coaching staff now. Did you know that?
That is right, under the apprenticeship program. Yeah, right.
But we had like a 17-3 lead and blew it. And then in 08, I was at the game. And we had a big either a 14-3 or 17-3 lead with Kyle Orton, and he blew it. They blew it. And then in 14, I was there, and we had a similar lead with Cutler, and they blew it. So I didn't go in 2010 because the week before, Cutler got concussed on a Sunday night game with the Texans, and Todd Collins had to play. So I was like, I'm not going. I'm not paying $300 to go see Todd Collins. Yeah, that's why I didn't go, and the Bears won that game because Forte had like 220 yards rushing.
One of my favorite running backs in Bears history. By the way, a correction: the Bears are 5.5-point underdogs. So,
see, they'll see that. It's kind of like what Lovey would always do with them. See, nobody thinks you can win today. I think I'm already writing the story. See, the Bears can win. They can see that disrespect. They know they were bullied against the Colts. both sides of the ball, and I think they come back and they play with some heart Thursday night. I think they win.
You know what? I hope you're right. And even if they lose, if they play with heart and it's a close game, I will come away with some satisfaction. I'm not a participation trophy kind of guy, but you if you're going to lose a game, at least lose it, leaving it all out on the football field. And so that's what I hope this team does, because one of the things I'm concerned about is that this team might stop playing for Matt Nagy, just based on some of the things I've seen and heard. It's just a gut feeling. I'm not getting any insider information, but it's just a gut feeling that I think that this team might be getting tired of listening to Matt's bullshit, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of hearing his bullshit. But I text you that in the middle of the fourth quarter. I was like, man, the defense has quit today. I really felt that they kind of had surrendered, like they know they're not going to win this game. But again, whatever, I think maybe they come out and steal one Thursday night. It's time we finally beat Tom Brady. For fuck's sake, he's almost 50. It's now or never.
I'll be looking for your texts on Thursday night, and I hope that those listening to the podcast will look for us on YouTube. It'll be Bear Football with John Buffone, Tyler Ellis, and myself. We will give immediate after-the-game reaction to the game. We'll go about an hour or so, and then the following day it'll be David Schuster and Greg Gabriel, the former college scouting director for the Chicago Bears, analyzing the game. So we got plenty of Bears coverage. Oh, I should say also the Barfly Tailgate Show will be on our YouTube channel prior to the start of the game. So we've got a pregame show, a postgame show, and a show on Friday, all covering it for you here on the Barroom Network, a.k.a. Bears Barroom Radio Network. Dan Aguire, I love you, and I'll be reading your texts when you send them.
You be well, sir, and hopefully Mr. Buffone will pull out his Rick Meyer jersey, whatever we have to do to win this game Thursday.
There you go.
4-1 is so much better than 3-2.
You ain't kidding, brother.
I mean, in terms of just morality and your chances to make the playoffs.
Yep, exactly.
Bridgewater is sort of one of those boils on our asses. I could see him being frustrating, and beating us again. So let's win Thursday, and then hopefully get some momentum and take care of Teddy.
All righty. Take care now. Have a good day at work.
All right. Thank you, sir. You be well.
Thank you for listening to Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls. Make sure you subscribe to the Barroom Network and you give us a rating on iTunes. Until next week, my name is Nomfe. Bear down.